ahead of 2027, embark on a comprehensive reform of Ghana's key tax laws.
So that's the Finance Minister, Dr. Kassia Lato-Forson. So here on the 3FM Sunrise, we're doing 27 to the top of the hour. What we're doing this morning is to seek to bring you back important aspect of his delivery yesterday. We've just heard a bit about some of the taxes which have been abolished. That's the COVID-19 levy and the reform of the VAT system, which has seen as well a reduction of VAT from 21 to about 20%. Let's hear the minister as well speak about the energy sector, because you and I both know that what we don't want to hear is that there's a situation somewhere and our lights have to go off. Here's what the finance minister had to say with regards the country's energy sector.
Not only keeps the light on, but propels inclusive growth across every corner of our country. The Speaker, I now go to gas to power transformation. Right, Honorable Speaker, Ghana's gas to power strategy is transforming our energy future, shifting from costly light crude to cleaner, locally produced natural gas. This will cut generation costs by about 75%, strengthen energy security, and align with our climate goals. Gas production is rising fast in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, the offshore Cape 3-point partners, OCTP partners, have expanded capacity from 240 to 270 million standard cubic feet per day, while Jubilee and 10 field partners now supply about 130 from 110 million cubic feet per day. Mr. Speaker, within 10 months, we have added more than 50 million standard cubic feet per day of gas. Right, Honorable Speaker. New agreement will add another 150 million standard cubic feet daily, ensuring reliable, affordable fuel for power generation. To process this additional gas for power generation, government is fast-tracking the Ghana Gas Processing Plant, GPP2. Mr. Speaker, this shift means cheaper power, cleaner energy, and a stronger, self-reliant Ghana. Right, Honorable Speaker. In the medium term, a total of 150 million standard cubic feet of gas per day will be produced by our OCTP and Jubilee partners, enough to generate up to 1,200 megawatts of power, bigger than Akosombo Dam. Mr. Speaker, beginning 2026, government will commence the construction of 1,200 megawatts state-owned thermal power plant to offtake the additional 1,150 million standard cubic feet of gas per day from OCTP partners and GPP2. Mr. Speaker, I repeat, beginning 2026, government will commence the construction of 1,200 megawatt state-owned thermal power plant to offtake the additional 150 million standard cubic feet of gas per day from OCTP partners and GPP2. This plant will support the provision of reliable and affordable power and secures Ghana's energy future. Mr. Speaker, the 1,200 megawatts is bigger than what our almighty Akosombo can produce. Right, Honorable Speaker. Ghana's oil production has witnessed consistent decline over the years, falling from 71.4 million barrels in 2019 to an estimated 36 million barrels in 2025, almost 50% decline. President Mahama has taken decisive action to reverse this trend. Mr. Speaker, government investor-friendly reforms have already secured over $3.5 billion in new investment commitment. These includes a $2 billion United States dollar framework agreement for the Jubilee and 10 fields to drill 20 new wells and a $1.5 billion United States dollar memorandum of intent with OCTP partners to expand operations. Mr. Speaker, this new investor-friendly environment has also drawn the interest of oil and gas majors such as Shell in our upstream industry. This is expected to bring in new capital, technology and expertise to increase our oil and gas production. Right Honorable Speaker, GNPC will commence drilling for oil on the offshore Voltaire Basin in October 2026. The prospects look good to expand Ghana's hydrocarbon production. Right Honorable Speaker, an upstream regulatory and fiscal review is underway to make Ghana's petroleum regime more competitive, transparent, and stable. Mr. Speaker, in 2026, government will roll out rural electrification acceleration and
as the Minister on matters relating to energy, there's a bit more on education areas, but yesterday the Finance Minister as well said there was going to be the creation of an independent office. As to what that really means, we'll seek to understand from him as well.
Pursue the following. Government will enforce sanctions under Section 96 to 98 of the Public Financial Management Act. The payroll validation exercise led by the Ministry of Finance in collaboration with the Controller and Accountant General will also be done. So, Speaker, comprehensive review and audit of the budget preparation and implementation process will be undertaken. We will implement recommendations from the comprehensive arrest and commitment audit by the Auditor General, aided by EY and PwC. Right Honorable Speaker, will strengthen fiscal discipline and accountability through the operationalization of Revised Fiscal Responsibility Act. Mr. Speaker, we will institutionalize quarterly expenditure reviews. Right Honorable Speaker, together, these measures will ensure that Ghana lives within its means, mobilize resources fairly, and spend efficiently. Fiscal discipline is not an end in itself. It is the bridge between stability and progress, between policy and real improvement in the lives of our people. Right Honorable Speaker, the real value of Ghana's procurement threshold has eroded over time, trapping even small projects in slow, expensive approval cycles. The Speaker, the last review was in 2016. Since then, inflation and currency depreciation have made it nearly impossible for district assemblies, for example, to deliver basic community projects efficiently. The Speaker, the government is therefore updating procurement thresholds under the Public Procurement Act to restore their values and match today's market realities. Right Honorable Speaker, years of inflation and weak oversight have drained real value from public spending. Too often, projects are overpriced, delayed, or abandoned because scrutiny comes only after money is spent. To fix this, government will establish an independent value for money office, a permanent guardian of efficiency, accountability, and fiscal integrity. Speaker, it will certify major projects before approval, monitor delivery, and evaluate results to ensure every city delivers measurable value. The office will enforce cost benchmarks, require public VFM certificate for contracts, and coordinate with the Auditor General, the Public Procurement Authority, and internal audit agency to impose penalties for waste and fraud. Right Honorable Speaker, the Value for Money Transparency Portal will publish certified projects and citizen feedback in real times. Mr. Speaker, this reform will save up to 3 billion Ghana cedis a year, cut contract inflation, and rebuild public trust. Mr. Speaker, the Value for Money Office is not just another agency. It is Ghana's watchdog for prudent spending and real results. Mr. Speaker, we will be making the following amendment. Right Honorable Speaker, Ghana's petroleum wealth must work harder for its people.
So the Independent Value for Money Office is one of such promises the minister says is going to come to ensure that in all of our procurements there is value for money. But we've heard of a procurement office in the past as well. And so how different would this be? But we cannot talk about the budget without talking about education, because that's also an important aspect of the country's infrastructure system. Then there is health. We'll hear from the minister speak to health, and what will interest you as well, the public debt position of the country. So let's hear the minister speak to matters relating to education. We'll hear him again on health, and then public debt. Then I'll go to our guest. Hellen is here with me as well. We'll begin to go through it all again and see what comes out of everything that's been happening from the budget. Whether or not that inspires hope. A number of you have been sharing your thoughts with us via the phone lines when we open the phone lines. But let us know what you think as well as an ordinary Ghanaian. Then we'll touch base with our expert. But here's the minister on the government's plan for education in 2026.
We recognize education as a transformative tool and a catalyst for social mobility. We will deepen our investment in education, especially on infrastructure, to cultivate a generation of informed global citizens. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have developed a program, a 2-year program, to end double track. Mr. Speaker, education is the ladder by which nations climb to prosperity. And for Ghana, the ladder must be strong, wide, and within the reach of every child. Government is embarking on a bold and transformative initiative to upgrade, modernize, and expand access to secondary education across the country, ensuring that every Ghanaian child, regardless of background or location, can learn, grow, and succeed. Right, Honorable Speaker, many schools are overcrowded and others lack the infrastructure or resources to deliver quality education. As a result of this, the previous administration introduced the double track system, which have adversely affected the academic calendar and the quality of our education. Mr. Speaker, government is rolling out a 2-year program to end the double track system in our secondary schools. We will expand infrastructure, enhance quality, and improve access. This program will eliminate the double track system and ensure that every child can attend school full-time in dignity and in safety. Mr. Speaker, under this program, we will upgrade Category A schools by building new classroom blocks, dormitories, and quality improvement. So, Speaker, we will upgrade 10 Category B schools to Category A, equipping them with modern classrooms, dormitories, libraries, science and ICT laboratories. Right, Honorable Speaker, the reality is that whilst Category A and B schools receive overwhelming demand, Category C schools, which hold more than half of available spaces, remain under-enrolled due to infrastructure and quality gaps. Mr. Speaker, this inequality must end, and indeed it will end. Right, Honorable Speaker, we will accordingly upgrade 30 Category C schools to Category B. Mr. Speaker, we will build new classrooms, dormitories, and modern science resource centers for these new schools. Government will complete 30 of the abandoned E-blocks in urban and peri-urban areas and expand access for students in high-demand areas. Right, Honorable Speaker, government has also decided to enhance infrastructure and teaching and learning resources to improve outcomes at the basic level. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, Get Fund will construct 200 new junior high schools, 200 new primary schools, 200 new kindergartens. So, Speaker, Get Fund again will construct 400 4-unit teacher bungalows. And Mr. Speaker, 400 places of convenience in underserved communities and schools. Mr. Speaker, each of these will come with furnishing, This will also provide access to more than 200,000 additional students annually. Right, Honorable Speaker, GET Fund will procure and distribute free comprehensive curricular-based textbooks covering the following. 4 sets.
So that's the Finance Minister on Education. Thankful that we have Nsako Fiasare, as Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, joining us via the phone lines. Nsako Fiasare, good morning to you, and thank you very much for joining us. I trust that you're well too.
Hi, good morning. Good morning to your audience.
We've just been going through the paces as to the budget presentation yesterday by the minister. We've just listened to him on education and what the plan is. Satisfactory on the face level of what we've heard, because, I mean, there are those who say it's always nice to hear it, but when it comes to implementation is where we really find out whether or not the government is serious. But based on what it is that we've heard alone, where does it leave you as to the impressions by the impressions of the plan this government has for the country's education sector?
Well, I think satisfactory is too early, I should say. We have a sector which is fast growing, population growing, middle class growing, demand for education growing, supply for education is not growing, pari passu. That is a situation we have in Ghana. Between 2016 and now, the economy has grown by over 4-fold. Okay, we haven't seen a commensurate increase in investment in education. Which, 20 years ago, we were doing averagely about 6% of the national budget commitment, and 6% of GDP equivalent investment in education. The budget that was read today is committing only 2.7% equivalent of GDP to education next year. That's the lowest in decades. At least in the past 15 years, we've not gone that low. So, yes, in nominal terms, 43 billion allocated to education is the highest, higher than last year's. Just about a little above 2% increase from last year's 42 billion, 2.6% increase over last year's allocation. Very slim. And then also compared to GDP, that's one of the lowest education share of the budget share. So generally, it is not about satisfactory. We still haven't come up to terms with the fact that the demand for middle income education is far or has far outstripped the supply, and so the state must recalibrate the mechanisms and the criteria for financial education. We still haven't come up to terms with that, and so that for me, it's my preliminary comments in terms of the budget.
You say that not to the extent as we would want in terms of the GDP ratio which is being subjected or provided to education. But if we can go into a bit more of the details, we hear the minister say the government has a 2-year plan to abolish the double track system. We'll start off from there. And in achieving that plan, they're seeking to put up a number of facilities, dormitories, also raising some C-class schools to B-class schools, amongst others. Do you think this is a realistic enough target, this 2-year time frame, to completely abolish the double track system?
Okay, so to the interventions, yes, I think that in fact, the NDC promised that the first to end double track within 2 years. So 2 years should have been the end of 2026. You understand? So I think it's realistic. It's realistic. The realism in it is a matter of the expediency of the strategy. What strategy is the ministry deploying? The ministry has brought in private schools who have infrastructure on use to take some people. Great. It's in piloted. We are seeing how it goes. the ministry is focusing on expanding existing schools rather than building new ones. I'm not saying they're not building new ones, but the focus is on expanding existing ones, and so expanding 10 category A, 10 category B, 30 category C, with reading facilities, and then also completing abandoned E blocks, converting them into dormitories. So, this is what we recommended for government if it aims to end double track in the short term. And so, yes, it gives hope that giving expedited releases and completion of projects, double track should be able to end within the period that the ministry is projected. It is, however, important to note, my brother, that double track is not just a function of infrastructure. We keep saying that. Okay, it's not just a function of infrastructure. Double track is also a function of a meritorious and effective school placement system. If you expand the category A, expand it, or upgrade their facilities, you are not necessarily adding numbers to PRESEC. You are actually improving the facilities because they are already overcrowded. Okay. Now, what makes double track work is that you must respect the sex capacity and respect the category B school capacity and not overpopulate them. So double track is not just a matter of brick and mortar, but it's also a matter of an effective and meritorious school placement system. And then third, it's a function of ensuring that all other schools that are not receiving quality enhancement or infrastructure upgrades are also put in a particular shape that enables Kofi Asare's son to accept posting to that school when they are placed there. So the number of schools that minister has said that they're going to invest in are 80. 10 category A, 10 category B, 30 category C, and then 30 abandoned E blocks, 80. That's about 10%. That's less than 10% of the total number of secondary schools and technical schools. So it means that the third function of double track ending is that for the other schools, make sure that the facilities there are put in good shape so that when people are placed there, they will not reject the posting and come and create problems in other schools that should be single track. That is how I think the approach in any double track should be. And so, yes, it is good to have 1.1 billion allocated for expanding the infrastructure, completing projects in these 80 schools. But then the other two interventions must complement so that we can meet the timelines for double track. I'm not too sure if 1 billion cedis is enough. Obviously, it can be enough. We hope that in the media budget we'll see additional financing. We project that it will take 20 years at the rate of spending 2 billion a year on secondary education infrastructure. It will take 20 years to put all our secondary schools up to standard. That's
a long time.
Where no one will reasonably reject placement into. And so the 1 billion obviously is inadequate. We hope that amendments are made in the media budget so that we are able to end double track within the stipulated time.
Right, and I believe of the suggestions you make, one of it is seeing some of the category C schools now being, the government says they are going to do all it can to move it from C to B amongst many other things.
Yeah.
And you say even at this rate, it will take us up to 20 years to ensure that all of the schools are at a certain scratch.
Yes, because the category C schools being upgraded are 30. They are 30. And that's less than 10% of the number of category C schools we have. We have 1,000 secondary schools. So the numbers we are intervening in are only 80. 80. You understand? But what I'm saying is that there are many schools that are not part of the 80. Okay, a school like Mozano Senior High School in Goma. If you go to the school, it's like a shrine. They don't have anything. They cook in Mutia. You understand? But they are not part of this school. The point I want to make is that as you expand existing schools, build new schools, it's important that you put in shape these schools that are not being expanded so that people don't reject things into them, because any double track also means that if I'm placed in Mozambique Senior High School, I accept. It also means that because if I don't accept and I come and cause trouble in agri-owners now, then I'm creating double track.
Right.
So it is not just intervening in some schools to expand infrastructure. It is more about that, yes, but it also includes ensuring that the existing schools that are not being upgraded at least have the basic facilities that will not reasonably, attract anyone to reject them when placed into sin. So it is not just selecting some schools and upgrading them, but then it's also about ensuring that the existing schools have some standard facilities that not that they become attractive to people, but then people shouldn't have a reasonable basis to reject them because the facilities are so poor and inhabitable. That's how I should put it. Yeah.
Right, and the private schools which are being rolled into the free SHS.
Early days yet. I've been looking at the data from my pigeonhole, and if I have to play the devil's advocate, I will say that the impact might be marginal, because the numbers we are seeing are certain postings there are very, very lower than expected. But again, Ghanaians have a penchant for secondary education to be burdened. Last week I was engaging my team going around. You go to a school like Kapasenpe Senior High School in the Wale area. A STEM school, one of the new STEM schools that were built. Almost everybody is a border. The majority of the students come from the area, that part of the country. Even those who are from the town where the school is, everybody wants to be a border. People who live in Medina are borders are protected. So when you provide private free senior high school and it is exclusively day, you should know what you expect, right? Yeah. So it won't be too attractive, and so I don't want us to draw too much on that. But it's a pilot. Let's see how it goes. But what I'm saying is that insofar as it remains the level of attraction will be very, very low, because the average Ghanaian is so interested in being a student when they get to secondary school.
Right. And I know you're big on basic education. We had some mention on that as well. We're seeing a number of new school infrastructure coming along in this new budget. In terms of the overall attention this budget seeks to pay to education, and to a large extent basic education, are we beginning to make an improvement from what has been the case in the previous years?
For me, the pride of place given to basic education in this budget is what excites me. In spite of the budget falling below international benchmark for finance education, the pride of place given to basic education is what excites me. For the first time, we are seeing a budget allocating funds, 2 billion cedis for basic education infrastructure from GET Fund. That's over 20% of GET Fund going into basic education infrastructure alone, not basic education infrastructure alone. That is unprecedented. And why it excites me is that it falls within a carefully thought out process I see of building upon the gains made in year one. What happened in year one? In year one, the government commissioned 261 new basic school projects, one in every district, through this Assembly's Common Fund. Okay. Now, the idea was to ensure that there is, based on equity equality, everybody should get one. Now, in year two, and this, we are monitoring these projects. Okay, they started in almost all the districts. In year two, the government is saying that now we want to begin to be equitable by ensuring that we are building 200 schools, not one in every district, but then focusing on underserved districts, so that if my district is underserved, I will end up getting about 3. The government is saying that we are building 200 kg, 200 primary, 200 JHS. So, for example, a district like Tatale Sanguli, where only 15% of primary schools have their own junior high schools. Okay, it means that they will need more junior high schools. They might need about 20 junior high schools. Okay, while a district like Adenta will not need one, not even one, because there is parity between the number of primary schools and junior high schools. So this complementary intervention, for me, it's building upon the foundations that have been laid last year and ensuring that there's equitable distribution of equitable access opportunities for basic education. Note that with the problem statement is that about 1 million Ghanaians are out of school. And you don't enter school at secondary level, you enter school at basic level. And so if we want to reduce the number of out of school children in Ghana, we should, in underserved areas, provide opportunities for equitable access, which means build new schools, build new schools where there are no schools, build new school buildings to replace schools under trees and dilapidated structures, so that the environment for learning and teaching will be attractive. And so if you add the two, it means that if the government is able to implement this as announced, by the end of the second year, we would have had 461 new basic school projects completed.
Right.
That would have been equivalent to how many basic schools we built in the last 8 years. So I see the budget, though not meeting the minimum funding norms per UNESCO's benchmark, being heavy on basic education infrastructure and society. Beyond that, I see a trend too, again, including basic education. And I also see one of the recommendations we make to political parties during the electioneering campaign in our manifesto engagement with their education manifesto committees, that we should begin to build teacher accommodation as part of the school education infrastructure. For some years now, teacher accommodation has been relegated to MPs. If an MP wants to do something, the MP will choose to do the teacher accommodation. For the first time in many years, I'm now seeing a deliberate effort. 400 new teacher accommodation blocks to be built. That is very, very, very significant. And so, to the extent that this teacher accommodation will be built in deprived areas where people don't want to accept postings to, it solves a huge problem of teacher retention and teachers accepting posting into deprived communities. And so we on our part are always to ensure that we monitor. I nearly forgot. There's a similar intervention to provide toilets. Just last week, I was at the PAC as a friend of the PAC to discuss, among others, reports, including the Auditor General's report on toilets in basic schools and secondary schools in Ghana. In March this year, Edward conducted a field survey in 14 districts. About a third of our basic schools do not have access to toilet facilities, even in urban areas. There's a school in Pantai Hospital. There's a school in Pantai, at the Pantai Hospital there. The school does not have a toilet facility. So most students have to eat themselves in a nearby bush. I won't talk about teachers, but it's obvious. The point I want to make is that an intervention to provide 400 toilet facilities for existing schools is laudable, because many of our schools do not have water and sanitation facilities. It makes the schools unhygienable. It affects especially girls' retention in school. And so we welcome this basic education budget and commit to follow up, work with the local government and the Ministry of Education to ensure that procurement and execution is done timely and also within the required standards.
Right then, Mr. Sari, these are early days yet, and I'm sure we'll have an extended period to have a lot more conversation with regards to our education, because it is very, very important. But I appreciate you joining us and for always making time to talk education. Your advocacy and a lot of the work that you do contributes to seeing some considerable progress in that regard, and so we appreciate you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's Kofi Asare speaking to us this morning. I was tempted to say afternoon, but it's morning. And so quite some good news on the front of education. And I think we're just talking behind the scenes about how some of the schools do not have these public places of convenience, and that becomes very worrying. Very, very worrying as well. I will just take your thoughts on that.
Yes.
Then we'll go on the phone lines, because there's a conversation about retooling of the military as well, and we've been joined by Colonel Retired Festus Aboagye.
Just a quick bite on what Kofi Asare had to say about the budget as far as education is concerned. And I wrote this down because it certainly piqued my interest. 2 billion Ghana cedis allocated to basic school infrastructure, in particular, like we're talking about the construction of places of convenience. And I think that's very important. A lot of emphasis, I think, has been put on the senior or the senior secondary school level, whereas we know that if you've got a more solid foundation, then the chances of success later on is higher. So I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. Let's solidify the foundation, and then we can ensure that our young ones have a better future. I think that would pique anybody's interest, that we're actually committed to spending some good money on the basic school infrastructure.
Let's take a listen as well, just quickly, to the minister when he spoke to the military and attempts of what the plan is by the government to retool the military.
The government has moved to renegotiate the 80 million Elbit Systems contract to secure 19 armor personnel carrier needed to boost ground readiness. Mr. Speaker, for the Navy, we acquired the 272-meter offshore patrol vessels fitted with helipads and modern combat systems to protect Ghana's maritime borders, offshore energy, assets, and trade routes. The Speaker, these ships will restore control over our exclusive economic zones and strengthen national resilience at sea. Right Honourable Speaker, for the Air Force, the procurement will begin in 2026 for 4 new helicopters and 2 aircraft to enhance airlift, patrols, and emergency response operations. Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, let me repeat. Right Honourable Speaker, let me repeat. For the Air Force, procurement will begin immediately in 2026 for 4 new helicopters and 2 aircraft to enhance airlift, patrol, and emergency response operation. Mr. Speaker, this retooling agenda will transform Ghana's armed forces into a modern, agile, and mission-ready defense force worthy of our sovereignty and the sacrifice of our heroes.
That's the Honourable Dr. Kassia Latoforsin. I mentioned we've been joined on the line by Colonel Retired Festus Aboagye. Colonel, good morning to you. Thank you very much as well for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
And hearing from the Finance Minister make these declarations as to plans to help in procurement, that will come as some good news for all of the personnel who tuned in to listen yesterday following the widespread conversations that we've had as a country about a need to retool our military.
Indeed. The situation in which we find ourselves as a country is that every sector is in dire need of some forms of resuscitation, recalibration, and so on. And the armed forces is no exception. Indeed, several years back, when General Obedakwa was the CDS, I was invited to attend a meeting at the Ministry of Defense. The picture then, now let's recall that General Obedakwa left and I think was replaced by Admiral Seka Muama, and then after him was General Okompepra. So it's way back. Now at the time, the picture that was painted by the services of the armed forces was extremely dire. The Navy did not have a single seaworthy vessel. Way back. That picture had not changed.
The Air Force, we know, especially at the time or the circumstances surrounding the crash of the Z9, August this year, the Air Force did not fare or fared slightly better. It had at least 2 helicopters in the air, 1 Russian, 1 Chinese, if I'm not mistaken. Then it had this Casa 295, which is the carrier. That's about all that they have. Then you come to the Army, there have been questions about these armored vehicles over a long period of time, together with some other armaments and so on. So yes, it comes as encouraging signals to the armed forces and indeed to the entire country, because limited as they are, they're going to, if you like, enhance the capabilities and mission readiness of the armed forces. Take, for instance, the offshore patrol vessels that the minister referred to. I'm yet to discuss or find out the technical features of that OPV, 17 meters or 70 meters thereabout. But at least the minister mentioned that helicopters could land on that ship.
Yes. These new ones we're seeking to purchase, he says helicopters can land.
Checked from, Navy HQ this morning. And it's the first time ever that Ghana is going to have such a vessel. So it shows you clearly that somebody is thinking about integrated operations between the Navy at sea and, if you like, the Air Force on land. But Navy, in our system, Navy doesn't operate its own air wing. Number two of them is limited, as I've said, but it's a good start, and I hope that going forward, we're going to have a program where we don't say we are retooling in 2026, and then the next time we mention retooling is 2028 or 2030. We come to the Air Force, 4 helicopters and 2 aircraft, which I believe will be carriers, not fighters. But indeed, in this day and age, my view is that fighters are not necessarily the weapons of choice. The weapons of choice are the drones. So if you have 4 helicopters and you have 2 carriers, transport, as the minister chose to say them, to ferry troops and executives and so on around, again, that is a good start. But we need the drones. Any armed forces that does not have drones, as we speak, is way behind. And when we get the drones, we must also have the counter-drone capability, whether through jamming devices, because enemies are also acquiring drone capabilities. And when I say our enemies, I'm not even referring to Togo and Cote d'Ivoire and, if you like, Burkina Faso. I'm referring to these non-state armed groups, like Boko Haram, like the jihadis, the Jinim, the Al-Qaeda, the ISIL, and so on. So that's a good start, once again. On the Army side, yes, armored vehicles, but armored personnel carriers are a part of the capabilities. You need armored fighting vehicles also to provide that cover for the APCs, as well as to provide fire for the ground troops. But I believe that going forward, the authorities, in collaboration with the armed forces, will be working out, some of these, capabilities.
92.7.
And so for you, perhaps we should get a bit more on whether or not we should be getting drones for ourselves, but this is a good start based on our history and the fact that we haven't had equipment for some of the personnel in a very long time.
Indeed. You see, when you come to the technicalities, and let's say you take the helicopter squadron of the Ghana Air Force, way back in 1988, when I had the privilege of visiting the Western deployment or British deployment in West Berlin as part of the British Army Staff College visit. The British Army squadron deployed in West Berlin had in excess of 16 pieces of aircraft. You're not talking of the whole, regiment, or you're talking of one squadron.
Right.
So 4 elsewhere will not form a squadron, will be part of a squadron. The Navy, same stuff. 2 vessels. If you place one in Takoradi and you place one at Tema, with a coastline of, 350 miles or so, you realize that it's an understatement.
Absolutely.
Which is why, again, the minister probably or the authorities have decided with the armed forces to have a vessel on which helicopters can land. But even for the Navy, I've also suggested elsewhere that they must have drones, to extend the range of their observation at sea. And then they can deploy the ship or maneuver the ship, to approach targets and so on. But the reality is that nobody in this economy or in this budget is receiving all that they need, because we are balancing the socio-economic needs of society with the military security needs of the country. It's a delicate balancing act. The challenge with Ghana, as I've alluded to, is that anytime we say retooling, the retooling is in cycles. It's not programmatic. We say, okay, we're buying 400 vehicles for the police, and that's it. Nobody tells you how many vehicles the police need, and what the program is that we're going to bridge that disparity between what the police has and what it should have. So my hope is that in the next budget 2026, we'll hear more of the retooling in order to augment the number. Let's remember that these are machines. God forbid, some will crash, some will have accidents, some will break down. So 4 helicopters and 2 transport aircraft and a certain number of armored vehicles, some of which may be deployed even on peace operations, given the length of our boundaries, territorial boundaries, and at least given the northern sphere where we have this existential threat from terrorists and so on. 4 is not the ideal number.
Right.
But as an individual, I'm also aware that it is not a matter of that, let's give the armed forces everything they need. If the government does that, indeed, there will be nothing else to read about in the budget, because the armed forces will consume
pretty much everything.
Yes, everybody else must have. The real strategy is to have this strategic program of 4 for a start, and how many? 2 vessels for a start for the Navy, and X number of armored vehicles for the Army. And then 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, not for this government per se, but for anybody who find themselves in power, to realize that you need those military capabilities to protect and defend, the socio-economic assets of the state. Right. And not to wait until one day the balloon goes up and then we realize that the armed forces hasn't got the capabilities that they need in order to, perform their constitutional mandate.
But to the extent that we're told that these are to arrive in 4 years' time when procurement starts early next year, we will still be in a state where for 4 years will be as it were in terms of equipment for these personnel to go about their duties. We know in such procurement it takes time, but shouldn't the expectation be that, look, based on the fact that it is so glaring, the challenge we have in terms of equipment, this process could be sped up a bit?
Well, that is a challenge that we have. You see, it's not like walking to a supermarket and buying 1 kilo of sugar. You see what I mean? These are heavy equipment that cost a lot of money. And therefore, production is normally made by the producers or manufacturers against orders. They don't produce armored vehicles, whatever the capabilities are, and line them up in a warehouse until somebody comes to say, we want to buy them. You see, nobody manufactures ships and keeps them in dry docks until a member state or whoever comes to say, I need some ships, please, can you sell me those that you have at your dry docks? And the same go for aircraft. They are manufactured on order. Now, that reality is a reason why I've suggested that you must have a programmatic strategy. So, yes, we're going to receive this, or we may receive them in 4 years, unless, of course, perchance, a country that might have ordered any of these equipment, changes its mind. And then that producer can divert, if you like, those equipment. There is no way of course, if you want to fast track, then it goes into the domain of what we call express. And any express service costs more.
Right.
You see, so we need to do with the reality and just hope and pray that nothing untoward happens to expose our unpreparedness. But then to address that, I'm saying that today, as we are ordering the equipment that will take 4 years, let's do plans and programs to order those that will arrive in 5 to 6 years, and 6 to 8 years, and 8 years to 10 years. Then we don't face this really, because nobody can control the behavior of its enemies. States don't have that choice. We cannot tell Boko Haram or Jenin or Al-Qaeda or whoever not to attack Ghana until after 4 years. So we have been a bit irresponsible. We've done everything but not thought it, necessary or needful to equip the armed forces.
Right.
To the extent that at a particular point in time around this year, you had one Casa 295 that was airworthy. Then you have one Mi-17 that was airworthy. The 6 or so Z9s had all crashed, all were unserviceable. And the last one that was serviceable, which was not even fit for purpose, was the one that crashed. So the Air Force did not have any single, apart from the Mi-17, which I have said is not a squadron.
Right.
The squadrons, you have 12, 16 pieces of helicopters. But Ghana cannot afford that luxury. So let's have some, because we've had times in the past during the Champon style when he ordered about 6 or 8 Fokker, whatever they were. Unfortunately, at this time, we cannot afford to order, 6 of these fighters, if you like, or even the carriers. We can't afford, because that will collapse the whole economy.
Absolutely.
So this is the advice that I think I would give to the authorities.
We begin planning right now for the future in terms of the equipment as well.
Planning, as we say, is continuous. Because needs assessment is also continuous. Threat assessment are continuous. We don't do threat assessments cyclically every 4 years. You assess your threat virtually on a daily basis.
Right.
Then you adjust your capabilities. Why we must sit down as a country and be doing all manner of things, building cathedrals, You see what I mean? I mean, those kinds of balancing equations and building sky trains. When one terrorist can come and blow up the sky train, maybe in a second or whatever it is, and not thought it necessary to retool the armed forces. And indeed, we're talking about the armed forces. We should be also talking about the public safety sector.
Which is what I was going to come to next, because in this budget as well, we're seeing that there's a plan to procure some 100 fire tenders and assorted fire equipment for distribution across the country as well.
Yes, indeed. Given this, I don't know how to describe it. All of a sudden, we're having too many market fires. And one wonders what is wrong, because we've had markets with us over decades. But these days, market fires, occur almost every now and then. But when we hear the fire service officers talking to us about their capabilities, they will tell you that we don't have fire tenders. We have only one here, one there, that kind of stuff, So it looks like we as a country, we don't have integrated planning. We plan in silos, and then when you go with your demands and so on and so, like these armed forces ones, I'm sure they went with a raft of, equipment requirements. We need this, we need that, we need that, because all of the things that they need will be combined in a certain way to multiply the capabilities of the armed forces. But the government will say, and with due respect to the government, that we don't have the resources.
Right.
And that is the reality we have lived with. We don't have the resources. So yes, you need 5, but we can only give you 2. So go and make do with the 2.
With the 2.
Until such time that. And then until that such time, that is the end of the planning. The government or governments do not pay attention to the idea that retooling the security services must be a constant, event, or a constant process, not once off and then we go to bed. But look, the millions of cedis worth of assets that are consumed in fire outbreaks, it's a cost to the economy, even if the individuals have lost. They're also a cost to the economy. So that number, once again, for the Ghana Fire Service does not mean that is the end of it. They will have breakages. They will have vehicles that will fall or go into accidents and be unserviceable and usable. So my whole argument is that we must be planning every year to, if you like, augment, to top up, assuming that's the right word, top up the equipment capabilities that all these sectors need. And not to just during budget years, every 4 years or so, the government comes and says, okay, this is what I'm going to do in year 1. Then year 2, year 3, year 4.
It goes quiet.
During those 3 ensuing years, some of the equipment will become unusable.
Right.
That's the reality that we have. I mean, this is beyond national security. That we shouldn't even talk about them.
Right.
But those who need to know. They know, those who need to know.
And even some of us have come to realize, based on the little work we do here in terms of journalism and reporting, that things are not in the best of shape in terms of looking at across the breadth the security apparatus and availability of tools.
And then,
to work.
We're talking about equipment. You have said constantly, for instance, around Galamsey, let's put the soldiers in the forest. And that is the end of it. So just issue a directive and tell the CDS through Ministry of Defense to deploy soldiers to the forest. We don't go the next step to calculate the resources that the armed forces need to enter the forest and pitch up camps. They need tentage. the tentage deteriorates with time, especially in forest environments.
Right.
They will need transport, some of which may not be able to enter the forest. So they need other resources to ferry whatever they need into the forest. The medical facilities must be extended into the forest. The communications must be extended into the forest.
Right.
There's a whole range of logistical calculations that the armed forces will make in order to be able to go to the forest or river bodies and do the work that they are doing.
Right.
If the Navy says they are going to patrol our river bodies, then they will need the rubber dinghies, the military type.
Right.
You see, they all cost money.
And money we don't have immediately as a people.
But if you don't have the money, then your forest or natural environment gets devastated.
Absolutely.
You see what I mean? So this is a kind of balancing act that the government needs to do.
Right.
It's obvious to us that we have not balanced the equation very well over several years.
Over a number of years.
Yeah, I mean, you appoint one colonel, then you give them 100 men to go and stop Galamsey in Ghana. I mean, how possible is that going to be? Yesterday I had 1,000 men, assuming that I heard right. That's what Kenebua has. The question is it sufficient?
Right.
Because this attrition thing that we are doing, going and coming, might not deliver the impact results that we are looking for. We need to go cease, hold, until a reasonable time when we know that they are not coming back. So we need to change the concept of it. But all of that goes with resources. Helicopters and vehicles and all manner of things, recovery trucks and so on and so forth, plus the welfare of the men and women that we are deploying.
Keno,
their families.
I appreciate that you've made time to speak to us on these matters as well, and I'm sure we'll continue to have the conversation, not just about retooling, but even the Galamsey subject you mentioned and the approach that needs to be taken in dealing with it. But always, I appreciate when you make time to speak to us, Ken.
You're welcome, please.
That's Ken, retired Festus Abuaji, who speaks Ewe, by the way. He has a word or two always. When I call him on phone, he'll give me a word or two in thank you very much as always. And so the retooling of the military as well, and not just the military but the fire service, 100 fire tenders and some others. That's positive because we initially the Interior Minister had mooted the idea that he was seeking to put some 20 pesos on petroleum products as a means of retooling the fire service, but we haven't had the 20 pesos come into fruition, but the government says there's a plan to procure 100 fire tenders.
That's great news. That's very good news because you speak with personnel at the Ghana National Fire Service and they'll tell you what is woefully lacking. And with what we now know, increase in market fires, increase in domestic fires. We now have so many different gadgets. We're plugging this, we're plugging that. We do need the extra fire tenders, most definitely, because you've got to wait sometimes for one fire tender to be finished in one location before it actually moves to your location, by which time you are looking at precious lives being lost, property gone, and all of that. I don't know how soon, though, that is going to materialize.
That's the other leg of the conversation, that even as all of those things are very positive and will come in to augment a lot of what is needed, with the equipment for the military, now we're going to place the order and the manufacturers will have to start. And you heard Colonel say, if you want express, it's going to cost you more.
It's a lot of money. He said, well, because each model has to be you order it and it's made for that specific order.
They don't manufacture the
It's not like you can go to
doing window shopping.
You go to the mall and say, okay, I like this blue one. It has to be made tailored to your needs. So time is also of the essence.
Time indeed is of the essence. We'll go for these spot of commercials, and then when we return, we'll hear a bit more from the finance minister, because I mentioned there was a health aspect which we were yet to get update on. But let us know what you think as well of the finance minister's budget. The 2026 budget the budget is for all of us as a people, so it's not just the finance minister's budget, it's all of us, our budget. And we'll get a bit more. But find us on Facebook. We're streaming 3FM 927 as well as on YouTube, and leave a message for us. We're back after this.
92.
even though we're enjoying the music in studio, and I trust that you are too. Let's hear the finance minister talk to us about health and what the plan is for 2026, because health, they say, is wealth, and so it will be criminal for us not to talk about what the plan for the health sector is. We'll do that because we also know that they found money to complete 10 of these 10, or it's more than 10 of the Agenda 111 hospitals, and then they are seeking to build some new regional hospitals as well in the three in the respective regions. Let's hear from Dr. Kassia Latofosin.
Right, Honorable Speaker, health is the heartbeat of national development, and no country can build lasting prosperity without healthy population. The 2026 budget marks a decisive step in our national journey to reset, modernize, and expand Ghana's health infrastructure. So, Speaker, government will begin the construction of 6 new regional hospitals for 6 newly created regions, beginning with 3 hospitals in 2026 and 2 district hospitals at Bole and Shama. Mr. Speaker, also in 2026, government will complete 10 Agenda 111 hospitals. Mr. Speaker, in addition, we will continue the following abandoned hospital projects. The Speaker will continue the La General Hospital, Efiem Kwanta Hospital in Sekondi Takoradi Metropolis, CONVO Anoche Maternity Block, and the Ashanti Regional Hospital in Sewua. Right, Honorable Speaker, this project symbolizes our commitment to restoring trust and confidence in public health care delivery. Mr. Speaker, government will upgrade 7 hospitals to provide enhanced maternal and child health services. Right, Honorable Speaker, the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, also known as the Mahama Cares, was established by the Ghana Medical Trust Fund Act to guarantee sustainable financing in the treatment of non-communicable diseases and specialized medical services. The Speaker, too many Ghanaians battling chronic disease proved serviceless tariffs and essential medicines. This will ensure that patients receive uninterrupted care without exorbitant out-pocket expenses. Mr. Speaker, diagnostics and treatment centers will be built on a PPP basis in all major hospitals across the country. This will provide testing and treatment facilities for all the key identified non-communicable diseases under the Mahama Cares program. Right, Honorable Speaker, in 2026, we will retool the Ghana Armed Forces. Mr. Speaker,
so that's the minister. I think this one just edged a bit into the retooling of the Ghana Armed Forces. So I have the document here as well, and so I'll rehash bits and pieces of it again. We're seeking to complete 10 of the abandoned Agenda 111 hospital project. We're seeking to build.
Wait, you're reading verbatim what the minister said? Okay, because the choice of abandoned, I thought was quite interesting.
I actually see it in the document.
I thought you had added that there.
I will not seek to. I will not seek to. I'm sorry.
Understood.
So I'm reading verbatim.
Right.
Government will complete 10 of the abandoned Agenda 111 hospitals. This approach demonstrates our resolve not only to build new facilities but to complete existing ones efficiently and responsibly. But I'll go up the document, and it says that to bridge the inequality and healthcare gap, government will commence the processes towards the construction of 6 new regional hospitals for the 6 newly created regions, beginning with 3 hospitals in 2026 and 2 district hospitals at Bole and Shama. And so there is that as well. They say they will continue a number of the hospitals, the La General Hospital, Efiem Kwanta in the Sekondi Takoradi Metropolis, the CONVO Anoche Maternity Block, Ashanti Regional Hospital in Sewua. That hospital is, it's taking too long because I've heard it a number of times. Then there's Afari Military Hospital, and that was mentioned earlier in the document as well when he was mentioning some ministry specific as well. So quite a number of infrastructure projects are expected in the 2026 budget. And We've mentioned education, where there were a number of, we're expecting new dormitory blocks. They are seeking to upgrade some schools from C to B, which will mean expanded infrastructure. And we're seeing a lot of construction work as well going on at the health front. And this is where government says there will be work or jobs will be created as well. And the minority has criticized them that you are creating jobs for laborers, because once construction is done, they will return to their state of not having jobs. But this is what we know. Then there is a mention of Mahama Cares as well, which there is some allocation being made to it, if I'm not mistaken, in excess of 1 billion. If I'm not mistaken, I'll just have production cross-check those figures for us. There is that as well. The act has been passed, and so that has come to stay.
Right.
It has come to stay. Like free SHS came to stay, even though that didn't need an act. But this one, an act has been passed in Parliament, Act 1144. And so that has come to stay, unless anybody will want to abrogate it or possibly amend and change the name in the future. That's very possible with our politics.
Very, very, very likely.
And what have you. But that's it on the health front. I didn't see the mention of the new health management system here. We've had the minister speak to that extensively. We know we need a new system to manage our health infrastructure, amongst many other things. Since the one that existed before, we're paying some $100 million for a system we do not own. We do not own, actually.
Yeah.
There's a lot that we need to talk about in this country, because we pay $100 million and we will not own a system, even though we say we've paid 70. So the contract term is 100 million.
That's right.
We've paid 70 million, and we don't own the system. So we have to spend 50 million to generate or to create a new system, which we will seek to now own.
Interesting.
You have returned to a lot of things. This is your break.
I'm telling you.
You thought you were away from the conversation.
At all. And also, just to take us back to this morning, for those of you who are tuned into the news review, good morning again. And somebody actually sent this straight into my inbox and also sent me a mention on X. Hi, okay. Nat Baden, he says, hi Helen, the government indeed made an allocation for its flagship 24-hour economy. He says some 110 million Ghana cedis. Please refer to paragraph 1132 of the 2026 budget. So that is captured there, and this is what the finance minister had to say. Just permit me, it's just 4 lines. It says, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, I've seen it as well.
Aha, you've got it there.
To unlock round-the-clock productivity, export and decent jobs under the 24-hour economy, we are providing an allocation of 110 million in 2026 for the implementation of the 24-hour economic program.
Yes.
This will be leveraged with GIF, DBG and private capital to keep financing largely off the sovereign balance sheet. And so that's that correction. And thank him as well. Always appreciates the thoughts you share with us, because like we always say, we do this with you, and you are the reason we come here every day. And so it's good that you follow us, and then we continue in the deliberations and the conversations towards building of the nation state.
These are citizens, not spectators. So Nat Baden, thank you so much for that. We've now seen where that is captured, and I'm sure as far as the 24-hour economy is concerned, the other relevant sectors also will have whatever budget allocation is required, or at least they should, to ensure that it's up and running. It's become, I can't say it has become, but it's still very much a political discussion. 24-hour economy was touted left, right, and center. Are we actually seeing the benefits? Well, from this budget allocation, we're hoping that we see some more traction in that regard to make it more prominent, so that Ghanaians can actually follow along in the 24-hour economy journey to actually see what tangible results it can make in you and our lives. We heard of the 3 shifts, 3 jobs, and other interventions to ensure that we're more productive. Because at the heart of this budget conversation really is very simple mathematics. What are we raking in as a nation to then also pump out? We're spending 25% of the budget to pay salaries, compensations, and pensions and what have you. That's a hefty bill indeed. But how productive are we as a nation to ensure that, we're not, making a loss? We're actually more productive than we can be. But like Mawuena says, all your thoughts, your views, your comments, your questions, absolutely welcome. Do connect with us on all our socials.
Well, on the fact that we're on the page which mentions a 24-hour economy to scale up food production in 2026. And of the many things, we know that the Nkokon Ketenkete program was launched. Right. We're seeking to see 200 and we're seeking to provide or create jobs whilst feeding ourselves. 245 million is being put into that project alone.
This is the Nkokon
Ketenkete for next year. Then there's Red Gold, right? Which is the integrated oil palm development.
Red Gold.
Yes, that's what the minister has termed it. And this we got a hint of some weeks ago when he visited the IMF, or when he was in Washington. There were conversations where we're seeking to inject over $500 million. I see the figure here that we're establishing a dedicated 6.9 billion oil palm finance window. The government has seen or believes that one of the untapped areas in terms of forex exchange and economic development, particularly from the agricultural sector, is oil palm. If you do a bit more in terms of a research, it's actually a very viable commodity out there, which we haven't sought to take advantage of so greatly. And the government is seeking to do this, and they are targeting between 2026 and 2032 to see this rolled out in fullness. They say an initial rollout support will be provided in the 2026 for nurseries, outgrowers, land bank activation, long-term crop financing, smallholder inclusion, and value addition through local processing. So, like from next year, we're about to go massive in oil palm cultivation, because we'll be doing land banks, outgrower, crop financing, and all of that. So for the young people who are seeking to get into agriculture, because we've been on this campaign for a very long time that we should make it viable again for young people, this is an initiative that perhaps you should be looking at. Because I recall I've had a conversation with some of my siblings where they've mentioned they want to go into farming now.
Okay, farming in general.
Yes, in general. And I have conversation with some of my other colleagues who mentioned that they want to go into farming.
I would love to go into farming
as well. I think it hits at a stage where you realize that, why don't I go?
Or is it old age when they?
I didn't want to say it.
Is that what? Is that what is going on?
You have said it. I'll leave it with you.
Because we want farming to also be attractive, more attractive to the young ones. And I don't know what has now shifted the agricultural PR from it being, an old, boring man's, a woman's job, to now the youth actually wanting to participate. I had one lovely woman, Prenay, come in sometime last year. And she calls herself the Ghanaian farmer.
Right.
And what she does on the socials is nothing short of incredible, and really whetting the appetites of young people to get into agriculture, because there's money there, Mawuena.
Lots
I'm
of
telling
money,
you, Sika Wompa.
Lots of money.
Red, and I like how it's been called red gold.
Yeah.
This palm production, there is money inside. If you see me next year with a new, I'd be a red gold, no? With a new four-wheeler. Maybe.
Some Escalade, yeah.
Some Escalade like that. I too. Oh no! Off the back of a brick.
Off the back of.
You're not hearing all this. You're not hearing red gold and things.
Talking. She's talking plenty.
But you see, what
No,
excites me most, particularly on the agri front, yes, this thing is, what is the allocation being made to farmer service centers? So if you read, we're seeking to procure and purchase a ton of equipment, tractors, what have you, which we will be seeking to deploy into these farming areas, such that we try as much as possible to reduce the manpower in the farming. And on paper, I'm always very careful. On paper, this looks very fantastic.
Very juicy indeed.
In fact, if this were to continue in the 2027 budget, where similar allocation is made to procure similar such equipment again, then we can begin to have conversations about how much food we'll be exporting now, because we'll have enough to feed ourselves.
Yeah.
But on the value, on the face value alone of what it is that we're seeing, because I saw the equipment base of 600 and something outgrower. I think I can get a bit more of that detail, because Christian Yali had shared that a lot earlier in the evening. Let me just try and walk through those details as well. I've just got it right here. So of that 690 million, we are seeking to procure 660 tractors. 660.
Okay.
And the breakdown is 300 tractor trailers, 200 mini tractors, 200 mini tractor trailers, 200 mini tractor tillers, 200 mini tractor cultivators, 200 mini tractor plows, 200 mini tractor harrows, 200 mini tractor cutter bars, 200 mini tractor mowers, 460 3-disc plows, 200. So a lot in terms of what can help us go large scale.
Yeah.
In terms of farming. And again, I say on the face value, this is very, very positive for us if we want to become the breadbasket of the West African sub-region.
Are either of you taking advantage of Nkokon Kiti? Sixtus, will you be getting into poultry farming? You know that our poultry sector has been so decimated.
Yes,
but I'm thinking...
My brother and I have actually had that discussion. And when the launch happened, I remember that we had that.
You vowed to enter into the poultry.
But will you take it further than, because it would be good to have a practical example of somebody actually going through with it. Maybe 3FM as a business entity, we should take advantage of Nkokon Kiti. Can we house them somewhere on our campus here, so that we can also take the average Ghanaian through what it's like to actually, avail yourself to some of this government intervention, so that we can.
It is usable.
Yeah, so.
No, not a bad idea.
How can we get the ball? We can get maybe even Sunrise and Nkokon Kiti. Maybe we get the ball rolling.
There's actually a ring to that.
Yes, and
Sunrise
also
and
see
Nkokon
if we can also really tap into some of this wealth, this Nkokon Kiti wealth, so that if it goes well, we can actually say what the process is like. We can bear testimony, and also, hey, we'll beside you. If it goes in the other direction, we can also come and clearly state that.
Yeah, I mean, then we'll be the best judges.
No, I'm very keen. Let's see. Maybe next week we get the ball rolling. I'm not joking about this.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But we have to run. Our time is up. We have to run. Just
like that.
Yeah.
I thought we had some more.
Missed radio.
Yeah, just like that. There's money to be made.
I'm on air till 12 noon with AJ and myself. So
we are watching football. Yeah, on air.
Yeah, because the game is coming.
We'll play music on the lounge.
The game is coming right after this. But let's do birthdays quickly, and then we can run out of the studio.